In this video, we're going to look at significant figures. So this is going to be sort of an introduction to significant figures, and then we will cover some more in class, like adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. So significant figures are just really the figures in a number that are known with some degree of reliability. That's my with sign. So if I have a number and it has figures in it, the significant ones are going to be the ones that we know with some degree of reliability. Since we're doing chemistry here, we're usually talking about data that have been collected from an instrument. So some instruments allow us to know with a lot of reliability a lot of significant figures, and some allow us to know less. So from this simple figure from your book, we can see sort of a demonstration of this. So for this top ruler that I just indicated in red here, it only measures in intervals of a centimeter. So we can make a guess as to what that decimal place is going to be, but we don't know for sure. So looking at that first one, we might say that that is maybe 5.4 centimeters. So that would be our significant figures, the ones that we know with some amount of reliability. If we look at this second ruler, it allows us to measure to the 10th of a centimeter. So you can see they have the same numbers I'm using under here. So here's that 5.4. Now here, we can kind of estimate in between. So if we look at the 5 and we count over, there's 1, 2, 3 ticks, and then that measurement arrow is between the third and the fourth tick. So they have estimated that it is 5.36 centimeters. So because that second ruler has more measurement increments, I know more reliably the number to a greater degree. So this top number here, let me change my pen color here to green, it has two significant figures, 5.4, okay? The bottom number there, 5.36, it has three significant figures. So we know with a little bit more reliability a closer value to the true value of that. Now we don't know past those digits, okay, for either one of those. So what you need to be able to do here is recognize significant figures. So we're going to go over what figures are significant and which ones aren't. So all non-zeros are significant. So if I had, for example, 312, that would be three significant figures because I have three numbers that are not zeros, so 3, 1, and 2. If I had 2,867, that would have four significant figures. So everything that is not a zero is a significant figure. If I have zeros that are between non-zeros, those are going to be significant figures. So I'm going to say between non-zeros. So if I have, for example, 4.032, all of those will be significant. So that is going to have four significant figures. I could also not have a decimal place, so it doesn't matter if there's a decimal place or not. If I had 4,032, that would still have four significant figures. So on with the zeros, we can have zeros at the end of a number. And if the zeros are at the end of a number after a decimal place, then they are significant. So here's my decimal place there. So that's 14.70. All of those are going to be significant. So there are four significant figures there. Alternatively, I could have 1,000. And if I put a decimal place at the end, that would also have four significant figures because the 1 and the 3 zeros would be significant because of that decimal place at the end. So what this means is that if there is a decimal point, the trailing zeros are significant. If there's no decimal point, then they're not going to be significant. So for example, if we had 1,000 like this, it only has one significant figure because there is no decimal place there. If we remember from the previous slide, if we put a point there, that has 4 significant figures because of that decimal place. So that decimal place is telling us that those zeros in front of it are significant. If there's no decimal place, then they're not significant. And then lastly, we have placeholder zeros, and those are not significant. So what I mean by placeholder zeros is basically this is a small number, so these zeros in front have to be here. These would be placeholder zeros, so our significant figures are those last two, just 7, 2. So this guy has 2 significant figures. If I had a number, let's see, like this, then just these 2 would be placeholders and all of these would be my significant figures. That 0 here is between other non-zeros and after that decimal place, and so it's going to be a significant figure. So this here has 4. So essentially any zeros to the left of the first non-zero are going to be not significant figures. So they're just there to indicate how small, in this case, a number is.